Hello and welcome back. Today I wanted to review something a little bit different, or rather a lot different. Usually I'm doing lightsabers and things like that, but those of you who've been watching my channel for a while know that I'm also a giant Cthulhu fan. If I pan to the side here, you can see that there's a whole shelf of Cthulhu-related things right over there. So, big Cthulhu fan, so occasionally I break it up and do Cthulhu sort of things. Like when I had my Darksaber that was Cthulhu etched, or Cthulhu blades. Alright, this time around I wanted to look at this, which is by a Etsy seller called the Unassailable Mage. Unassailable Mage. You can find him around on Facebook as Typhon Eldritch. But he basically customizes and etches things. And this is one of the hammers that he makes. Now, what he does is he takes other people's stuff. So, for instance, this was a blacksmithing hammer. So this is an actual, legit, usable, good steel blacksmithing hammer that he took and then sort of pimped out with a lot of the eye and tentacle etch right here, the sort of shading and texturing, leather neck, and a gory-mouthed Shoggoth down here, and some details on the bottom. So he does a really good job with these things, but the core behind them is a very usable product. He also does things like axes. He'll take a cold steel axe and do etches on those as well. Now, obviously, when you're talking about a hammer, most of his products are Norse-themed, with runes on them, and those are the ones that really sort of sell and get a lot of attention. But every so often, he goes a bit off the beaten path and makes something like this. Alright, this top of this thing, this is a high carbon steel from what I understand. It's set in there very well because, again, this hammer was made for use. This texturing and everything on here, it feels like it's got a clear coat on top of that to prevent tarnish and rust. But theoretically, you could use this. There's finish on the hammer head here, so this would get marred if you used it on rocks or something like that. This would get marred. But realistically, it's a hammer, so if you beat it up a little bit, it just counts as weathering at some point. But the weight on it, very hefty. The size on it, just a little bit larger than a standard hammer. Now, one of the interesting things about this is when you see his stuff on Etsy, it always looks so much bigger. These things look like sledgehammers, but they're not. They're just a little bit larger than a standard hammer. They're a blacksmithing hammer. But his work is really good. The etch on this is a nice deep etch, deeper than you're going to find on things like lightsabers, so it's going to hold up a little bit better to use or wear. The leather wrap on the neck on this, a lot of the times so that you don't hurt your forearms, you're holding it up here unless you really need to get leverage. This thing will take it either way. A lot of the time down here on the handle, what he has is burned in. This one is actually painted on. I kind of prefer the burned in, but this Cthulhu hammer was what it was, and so we went with the Shoggoth. All right, and it's got a little groove right here so that you could tie a cord around it if you wanted to, like a wrist cord to prevent dropping. So he doesn't make a lot of products, and they come out rather slowly because each one is very individual. But he does take a lot of hammers, he takes a lot of axes, and he's got a couple of coin designs that he's made that are Lovecraft-inspired coins. So I appreciate the Norse Lovecraft aesthetic that Typhon Eldritch has sort of cultivated here, and I appreciate its inclusion in his products. So I wanted to give you guys a look at this. Again, a little bit different from my usual fare, but I thought it was worth showing off. This is the Eldritch or Cthulhu hammer from Unassailable Mage on Etsy.